Good day and welcome to the solution video for INF164Prac06. So for today's practical, we're going to be practicing transferring data between forms, binding list and data grid view, saving and loading data, so persistence, and then creating objects and lists of objects. Okay, so firstly we need 4 forms. I've already created each of these forms. My first one, second one, third one, and edit. We also then needed one class. Here's my class, which has various data attributes, properties for those data attributes so we can access them, and we've got our constructors. One thing I've changed with my class already is I've made it public over here, just so that it can be used easily in all of our forms. Okay, so let's get straight into it. What do we have to do today? So we got to pass data between the forms using our constructor, using a property, using either a constructor or a property, and then getting it back to this form, and loading data or saving data. Cool. Okay. So based on which object they've selected in the data grid view, it needs to open a form that looks according to what that object says. So height needs to be 250, width needs to be 10, and so on and so on. Okay. And then for the edit this form button, we need to open a new form that allows users to edit the details regarding this form over here, so form 1. Cool, so we got to retrieve the data back from that, as you can see here as an example. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. We're going to start with the Open with Constructor button. Let's go ahead and do that. Actually, we'll do the binding list first. So we need a binding list of type CL form. Let's go ahead and call it form datas underscore form datas. It's equal to new binding list. Sweet. Okay, and on form load event, I'm going to go ahead and set dgv.dataSource to be equal to my binding list. Just go ahead and test it. We should expect to see all of the data attributes as column headers when this runs. It's taking quite long. Oh yeah, there we go. So we see each of the data attributes from my class as the headers. Cool, next we can go into constructor. Okay, so the constructor for a form looks like follows. This is what a constructor looks like for our form. It's public, form name, the same as the class name, and then 2 brackets following it. We can see the exact same type of constructor over here. We have public, class name, and 2 brackets. So as you can see, our constructors follow a similar pattern. Public, always have the same name as the class itself, followed by 2 brackets. Sometimes they're empty, sometimes they're not. Depending if they're empty or not is how we pass data to that form using a constructor. So at the moment we don't pass any data to that form using the constructor because the brackets are empty. If we say we want to accept a string variable, we just go string my_s, okay? However, for this practical, we need to pass through all of these details regarding a form, which are all inside of our object, or our class rather, CL form data. So we're going to pass through CL form data. Okay, so now when we go ahead and open that form, we go frm constructor underscore c is equal to new frm constructor. Now you'll see it gives me an error over here. That's because these brackets are empty on this side, but this side over here they asked for an argument of form data. So we're going to go ahead and pass through our form data object. So we're going to use our list at a specific index. The index that is going to be used is from our data grid view. From our data grid view. There we go. Dot current cells, whatever cell they've currently selected. Dot row index. Okay, so what that does is it gets an item from, or an object from our list of objects, and it gets the specific object that the user has currently selected on the data grid view. So if we go ahead and look at their example, when the user selects this one, it's going to pass through that object. If they select this cell over here, let's say, it's going to pass through that object, and so on and so forth. Okay, so if we go ahead back here, at the moment we're just passing data to this form, we're not doing anything with it, so we need to say this dot height is equal to underscore fd dot height, width, x, y, and color. So this dot back color is equal to dot back color width and left and top must be set to location x and location y. Let's go ahead and test it. Make it blue, I guess. And up, I forgot one critical thing, and that's to actually show our form. Whoops. Yeah, so we gotta go underscore C. I was just creating the object of the form there, but I wasn't yet actually displaying said form. So let's try that once more. To blue, open with constructor, and there we go. Passes the data through and uses it on the other side as required. Okay, so over here what we're going to do is we're going to pass through with a property instead. Okay, so form property, we're not going to use our constructor. Just to refresh though, this is our constructor. Again, we can see it's public, got the same name as the class and brackets after it. In any case, so to pass through with a property, we need to create the object or the variable that we want to pass through. In this case, it's an object, so we say cl_form_data underscore fd. Then over here we create our property. What a property looks like, if we just check out our class, is this public data type name brackets get set. Okay, because we're just setting the value, we're giving form property a value. We don't need to have a get, we just need to have a set. Okay, if you want to give the form a value and get a form back from that, a value back from that form, you need a get and a set. If you just want to get a value back from that form, you just need a get. So to do this quickly, you can go ahead and just do that and get rid of our whatever that was, the get part, because we don't need that. So on form load event, we're going to set what are we going to do here? We're going to set up, I'm not going to type all this out again, I have it over here. So again, we're just setting this dot height to be equal to fd height, this dot width to be equal to the width, and this fd is over here, and this fd gets a value using the property. Okay, so how this works is in our form 1, under the property click event, we're going to open frm property underscore p, make it equal to new frm property. As you can see, our constructor stays empty because we don't require a constructor this time. The next thing we're going to do is set our property's value to the object that we want to pass through. So we use that by going underscore p, referring to the form. We then access the property, so it was called fd, and we say it's equal to the object that we want to pass through. Sorted. And then we go ahead and show that dialog. Okay, it's important that you show dialog and not just show. The difference is show dialog, this code will continue to run after it's show in the form. Show just normal show. This code will continue to run over here after this line has run. With show dialog, it won't continue running this code over here until this form has closed, this form being property. Let's go ahead and test it. Red. And there we go, it looks like it works. Let's just make this a bit bigger. Cool, looks good. Why is this one puts the location x and y over there, this one puts it down here, so that's not 100%. Reason being because it's not under the form load event, so let's just go ahead and put this under the form load event. So FD, as you can see, doesn't exist here because it only exists here. So what we do is we create a global form data variable called _FD. This one could just be called small fd. Then over here we can set fd d to be equal to small fd. Cool, let's go ahead and make sure it works now. Property, that opens at the top, and that opens at the top. Okay, so it was just the location wasn't working, but it is now. Coolio. So we've done opening with the constructor. As you can see here, to pass the data through to the other form of the constructor, we just use this part over here, the constructor part of the form. If we need to access that data that gets passed through in later parts of the form event, like in a button click or the load event, we create a global variable of that same type, or in this case it's a global object, and we set that global object to be equal to whatever object it is that gets passed through. We then freely use it in the form load event or wherever else. Passing with a property, we just go ahead and create our global object. We set that global object to be equal to whatever value they pass through to it, and then we just use that global property as we need. It's important that we set before we use it. As we see over here, if I take out this line and try run it, let's just make this, it's going to go ahead and crash because of a null reference, because FD hasn't actually been set to anything yet. So over here we need to create the form property, set its FD object to be equal to an actual value, and then show form property. Okay, so it's important that we do it in that order, because one more time, if I just go ahead and show it first and then set it, it will also crash with the same null reference exception. Okay, so important stuff to just remember to first create the form, then set its property value, and then only show the dialog. Okay, next form we have over here, we need to have form load on. Okay, this form we need to assign data values to these text boxes, these text boxes, and then when we click edit we need to give those data values back to this form over here. So let's go ahead and do that. We're gonna, because it doesn't say in the practical slides that you have to assign values using a constructor or a property, we can choose which way we want to do it, right? But my thoughts are we're going to need to give data back using this edit button. So the only way you can give data back to this other form is through a constructor, at least the only way that we're going to teach you this here. So we need to give data back to this form using a property, so it makes sense to also use a property to get data into this form. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and use our property method, clform data underscore fd. We then go ahead and just create our property for this and use property, and this time, because we're getting and setting, we keep both parts of our property. Cool. When they click the form edit button, all we're going to do is just close this form. So that's all that does. Over here on the other hand, we're going to set txt height, let's say, .text to be equal to underscore fd dot height dot toString, and so on. I wonder if I can copy paste this quick. Width location x, location y, txt width, txt location x, txt location y, to set to width, location x, location y. Okay, I'm not doing the color because it's a combo box and not a color, but what I have done is inside the items, I've just given the user some default colors to choose from. Okay, let's go ahead and click edit this form. this needs to bring up form edit is equal to a new form edit. We then need to go ahead and pass through our current object using the property as we did over here. We then go ahead and show that what's called form. Then after it's shown, which is this code over here, like we explained earlier, this code happens after this form closes. Okay, so once they've clicked that edit button, this code over here is going to execute. What we're going to do is we're going to change this dot back color. Let's start with that. Is equal to underscore e. Wait, did I do the underscore e dot what is it? fd dot back color. Okay. So one thing I need to still change. Let me just quickly get all these with this dot left and this dot top. fd dot what is height first, width, location x, location y. Okay, one thing I need to change. I think where are we looking? Yeah, edit over here. What I do is I receive the data using this property, right? That happens over here. Form 1 gives us the data. But what I don't do is under the form close event, the button click event where the form closes, I don't update an object or update this object's value. So it just returns the exact same values that it got basically. So to update those values, we say this dot height is equal to txt height dot text, and I'm gonna need to go ahead and convert that to an int. Convert dot to int. Cool. Width xy. Width txt. Width location x. txt location x. txt location, whoop, that's supposed to be an x over here, and location y. We then can also say fd dot, what is it, back color is equal to a color dot from a name, open brackets, and pass through, it's a combo box, not a dot text. Okay, let's go ahead and test that button. So we want to edit this form. It's going to make it crash. Okay, so why it made that crash, let me just go explain that. It says no reference exception over here. Why it did that, right? Because what we try to do on that line where it crashed is we pass through an object on the current selected cell, right? So the current selected cell over here is not actually a legitimate object. As we can see over here, it's got the default star next to it, meaning it's not an actual object yet, it's just a default row. So to get it to be an actual object, we just edit any of these rows, and now this is the default object, which means it won't exist. If I try click here, it's going to crash, but this object will work fine. So let's just crash it. Didn't crash it, but it did work. Okay, so yeah, just I don't know if I maybe selected the wrong one there, but just you can't automatically just start it, and although it's selected the cell, click it, it's gonna tell you that that object doesn't actually exist here yet. So just go ahead and add an object first by giving it values, and then edit it, and that will work fine. Okay, so we want to make this, let's say 500 by 500 0 0, and its color must be green, let's say. And then if we click edit, we expect this form in the background of here to change to look according to those, which it does. I'm assuming that's 500 by 500, its location was 0, and the background has changed to green. So that looks like it works. So in terms of the passing data part of the practical, we're pretty much complete. So we had two passing into a form, one using a constructor, one using a property. We had one passing into a form and getting out of that form. That was using a property. Just remember that the only way you can get data out of a form is with a property. You can't use a constructor to get data out of the form. And now we just need to do this saving and loading from file. Let's just go ahead and do this quick. Okay, so we don't expect you guys to be able to write this code off by heart. Just go ahead and copy and paste it from the slides. Just try have a rough understanding of what these methods do that we've given to you, but you don't need to be able to just type it all off by heart with the other one. Here we go. Now, to get these methods to work once you've pasted them in, there's slight fixes that need to be done. First things first is we need to add some namespaces. So we got to say at the top here, this is in the form class. Okay, so where we actually gonna click the button save and load. So we're going to say using system dot, is it serializable? No, dot, can't remember it off by heart at the moment. Runtime.serialization. Damn. Okay, so it's runtime.serialization.formatters.binary and using system.runtime.serialization. And in the form class, we also need to say using system.io. Okay, which we've used before for the input-output readers, or whatever it was, the text file readers. Okay, so that's all we need to add to the form. To the class itself, we got to add just these two, the serialization and the serialization formatters binary. And then over here, so just below the namespace blah blah blah, and above the class name, we got to add square brackets, and inside say serializable, and that makes the class actually able to be saved to a file. Okay, then what we need to go ahead and do is just change the code that we've copy pasted out of the slides, okay, just to get it running. So the first thing we need to change, it's not a binding list of students, it's a binding list of our CL form data. Go ahead and just change that wherever student is. Students, blah blah. Okay, secondly, when copying it out of the PDF, it has slight issues with the spacing. So it's file stream out file, binary formatter, B formatter, in file, B formatter. It should be var temp list object in, and there we go. Okay, that looks good. What we then need to go ahead and do is actually call these methods. So when we click save, we want to write data to a file, and we want to pass through the name form datas, let's say, and the list underscore form datas is what I called it. Cool. Writing data to a file, done. Reading data from a file, done. Okay, and that should just about work. We can go ahead and test it now just to make sure. Run it. So how we're going to go ahead and test this is we're just going to go add an object over here and another object over here with different values. We're going to save data to a file, and we're going to close this, open it, and load data from the file. And as you can see, it's read back those previous values that I had back into this data group view. Okay, so that's it for Practical 6, guys. I hope you found this video useful, and I'll check you guys next time. Cheers.